And we are live. I'm Austin Light with American Demon Comics, and this is my good buddy Brandon Ingram with Dismay Comics. How's life been with your solar panel and your new roommate, Dismay?
Yeah, things have been good. The solar panel technician, the way it sounded on the phone yesterday, it sounded like it was going to be a simple flip the switch back on sort of thing. But that flip the switch back on sort of thing has been almost 2 hours now. And he's probably on my couch now, as we were talking about before, watching anime and enjoying whatever snacks are in the fridge.
Yeah, he's charged by the hour by his employer, but not by
Yeah,
you. So he's just working
yeah,
up the
taking
clock.
his time. I get that.
All right. What I want to point out real quick is I've got this new Annie Leonhardt Funko Pop.
Nice.
She was kind of a hard find. Most good condition Annie's Funko Pops are about $150.
Dang on.
Could be up to 100 or 200. Out of the box, they're 50. I went to me and my girlfriend had traded in some valuable Daredevils. It was the first, it was like a 1999 first appearance of Echo thing. And then I traded in some of my old Marvel Legends toys and got a almost $200 worth of credit for the store.
Wow.
And I was like, you know what? We're out right now. Let's just go pop in the comic book store, see how they're doing, see if I've sold anything, see if they got anything new. And we came through and we were just kind of browsing the like video game part where they have used consoles and stuff, and started hitting up the owners. And then I was like, well, do you have anything new? I have any Attack on Titan stuff? And they're like, oh, we do have some Attack on Titan stuff. My niece just donated like a bunch of weeb shit. So we went to go check it out. And the very first thing on top of this collection that was there was the Annie Funko Pop. And I lost my marbles, dude. I was like, whoa. And my girlfriend was like, shut up. I was like, I can't, it's right there, it's right in front of me. And they went ahead and priced it, and the box isn't in the best condition, and they had 15% off in the store. And because I've been friends with them and doing business with them, they knocked off like $70 worth of the price, where like the value
Nice.
of it. So I got it for about $90, $90.95 with my store credit.
Wow.
So I'm super excited to have that in my collection. I think we have another pre-ordered Annie Funko Pop of her in the crystal. And I think that will complete all of the Annie's Funko. Those are the only Funko Pops I give a crap about. Like,
Yeah, just the
really.
Annies.
So it's just because there's so many, there's not any figures of her. Like, there's not any figurines or action figures or
They didn't make any action figures of her?
they had one on Amazon for $800. So that was kind of out of the question. It was one of those really fancy action figures where you could like swap the heads, and they had very dynamic posing and stuff that you could do with it. But yeah, that it was, your more common ones like Aaron or Levi were like 70.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's weird because she's such a high value item, but nobody makes her. And it's
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
kind of keeps her at a high value item at the same time. But anyways, added to my collection back here. Very excited about that. Anything cool going on in the world of Brandon?
For the most part, no. But you talking
Mhm.
about comic store trade-ins and stuff like that made me think. I've traded in a bunch of stuff to comic shops and hobby shops to get something else in return or store credit and stuff. And I realized I think almost everything that I traded in and then bought with store credit, I've since sold or gotten rid of. I just
Mhm.
realized, except one thing. It's a Batman Court of Owls mask. Have you seen those? It's like a white owl mask, kind of. It's just like it's almost like one of those cheap masks where it has the
Mhm.
string on the back and you just like pop it on the
Yeah.
front. It made me think of that because I traded in stuff. This was like years ago. I traded in stuff and I was looking at stuff and there wasn't really anything I wanted, but I saw as a part of their decorations they had a Court of Owls mask. And I really like the Court of Owls. It's essentially like Batman Illuminati, basically, like
Yeah.
Gotham Illuminati, pretty much. And I saw that mask like just as decoration. And I was like, "Hey, like, is that for sale? Like, I'll buy the mask." And he's like, "The mask? Like, usually because that mask comes with like you can buy that, but it's usually a box set that comes with the Batman Court of Owls graphic novel, and then the
Mhm.
mask is also in it. It's like a box set that's like 30, 40 bucks or whatever." And I was like, "No, no, no, like I don't care about the graphic novel. I already have it. I've read it a ton. I don't need that. I just want the mask." It was like, I guess it's mostly decoration. It was like, "How much do you want for it?" I was like, "I'll give you $10 for it. $10 of my store credit." He's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure." So
I have
that's the
nothing better
one
to do with it.
thing in comic store credit I still have is my Court of Owls mask.
Later that night, Brandon with the mask on,
Yeah.
jumping around on his bed, taking cover. I
What
got
was
you,
funny
King.
is
Wait, that's
I
Barbara.
went because me and my friends like we were like 20 maybe, but we still did trick or treating because trick or treating's fun. Like
Hmm.
you should never have to give up trick or treating. I think that's stupid. I think it's okay if adults trick or treat.
Yeah.
But we were 20 and we were trick or treating, and I forgot what their costumes were. But I was a Court of Owls member. Like I had a nice business suit, and then I had my Court of Owls mask. And for those that don't know, I am tall. I'm a lengthy guy.
Hmm.
And I was walking around, and this was before, like, Court of Owls eventually made an appearance on the Gotham TV show, but no one really watches the Gotham TV show. But this was before that. So it was
Yeah.
literally just a comic book thing. So I'm walking around, we're doing the trick or treating stuff. And most people that would see me, they'd be like, "Oh, Slender Man. Oh, it's Slender Man." Like, it's not Slender Man. There was, I think, two people that were like, "Oh, Court of Owls," and I was like, "Yes, thank you, thank you." But yeah,
It's nice to get that recognition.
mm,
Um, I wanted to bring up. I also have I've got a new mic here. Um, and I don't know how it sounds. Like I did a small test before we began. This morning to test out the volume on where I want it set on. But I don't know how sensitive it is to other noises. I don't know if it peaks with my voice. I don't know how loudly or quietly I should talk or how far away or close to it I should be. So, um, how's that? How's it been so far?
it sounds good to me.
Okay. Um, I just want to make sure I don't like get too far away from it
Yeah, yeah.
or it starts really picking up the AC. The AC was just on and it's just gone off again. I don't know if it heard that.
That's a plus side with StreamYard has the audio setting of it's like reduce mic background noise.
Mm-hmm.
I usually have that turned on because yeah, I've got a fan going and it usually doesn't pick up the fan.
Well, I think I had that reduce mic background noise. Echo cancellation is checkmark. I cannot checkmark the reduce mic noise.
Oh, really?
No, it won't let me. So maybe that must be. Oh, excuse me. That might be out of the app. Out of the
But
app.
I
I
can't
think so.
can't hear any background noise anyway. You can probably
Okay.
hear my dog
Yeah.
yapping away, but
All right. So I want to start this off with: have you ever watched Pearl or X?
I've seen both. I've seen
Nice.
both.
I'm not sure how. I think that if we were going to spoil it, we would have to kind of dedicate an episode of review for them for it, because it would be kind of sneaky to start talking too much about it. But um, those were peak horror movies to me.
Did you
Um,
recently see them?
yes, and Maxine is coming out in July, I think early July.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited about that. Um, the only, well, they do kind of have a monster in there. They do kind of have a little uh, water creature. Um, the only thing is, I'm a big monster person, uh, and that would make any movie that's like lackluster kind of go up a little bit. Uh,
I gotcha.
so uh, without a monster, these horror movies I think are as good as they get. Um,
But man himself can be a monster.
yes, that's
That's what a
exactly
lot of the
right.
reviewers would say.
um, well, it's a very subjective issue I have to be including monsters, and but that is very true. It makes it a little bit that much more terrifying to have your own kind be monsterish. So,
Yeah.
um, and I mean that's something that's not up to debate. That's a hard fact of life.
Yeah,
The
that's
Kane
thousands of
situation.
years of history. Yeah, it's not just a new thing. Like yes, in terms of like our discovery or the FBI's like typology of like what is a serial killer? Yes, that's fairly new in terms of like the 60s and the 70s we're realizing what that is. But something like that has been around for centuries, for
Mhm.
thousands of years. And it may have had a name thousands of years ago, but we don't have those documents.
Well,
But
governments can essentially be uh, guilty of the same,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, uh, I know, our government, the Russian government, the Japanese government, the Chinese government, um, they get away with a lot. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think some serial killers just kind of pale in comparison.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
100%.
I think it's actually a little bit more terrifying because serial killers don't really have the power,
Well,
they're
it's
not the man.
easier for human society as a whole. It's easier to point and blame one boogeyman because we've had all these fables and these classic stories of that. And it's just easier for us to point at one person. Whereas with the government thing, there's a lot of trickle down stuff,
Hmm.
and very rarely is it a oh this one person is big bag boogeyman like
Right. Um, well, uh, not to stray too far. I just wanted to mention that as far as no supernatural occurrences really occurring, I think Pearl and X were fantastic horror movies. Um, Hereditary still is up above it to me. There are a lot of other disturbing movies I have not got to see. So I have not watched any more VHSs. I know that there's a list of many like kind of more underground movies because they're so disturbing that I've not watched. But again, I was very entertained by these movies.
Yeah, I like them both. I personally, I like Pearl a lot more. Um, X is like good. I'm not even going to say really great. I mean, I
Mhm.
enjoyed watching it, but like, I'm not dying to do a rewatch of it.
I would
Um,
agree.
like X is like fine to good.
Hmm.
It's around there. Whereas like Pearl, for me at least, I thought Pearl was great. Like I really liked Pearl.
Um, yeah, I think Pearl had a lot more to say. Now, I think X was one of those like really well executed uh movies as far as effects go.
Yeah, yeah,
As far as like um tension setting goes, um it wasn't so much the story and the people as much as it was the production that put that together was just really really good. Like everything was, there were, moments like the shotgun blasts and stuff being kind of outlandish, but they were also in the realm of like believability of
oh yeah, yeah,
body horror, and like still very um I was still immersed as far as like the effects and everything go. I think that was really well done.
yeah. And I think
um
like Ty West and everyone that worked on it, like the point, I mean, like initial point at least is like, let's make a movie that feels like a 70s horror movie. And they do
yeah.
that great. It does feel exactly like a 70s horror movie. So
um well, that's just kind of like my mention again. I would love to talk a little bit more deeper about it, but I don't want to go into spoiler territory. If you're interested, Brandon, maybe we'll do movie reviews or something a little bit more specific for that. But they are highly recommended for anybody listening. Um, Now, this other one is kind of very. I'm probably not going to watch this movie. But Ari Aster is making a Bigfoot movie. It's like Bigfoot Sunset or something like that.
hmm.
Um, and
Wait,
I would have.
is that the thing that's out like right now?
It might be out right now.
Is it a comedy?
Yeah.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. I might see it. Um, it parts of it look funny. The issue is like I don't know how much of it is going to be like slow moments.
Mhm.
Because if you see the trailer, like there's funny parts, but there's a lot of slow moments, and I'm worried that there's a lot of that in the movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Well, that's just kinda like what I don't want out of a Bigfoot movie, me personally. I don't want comedy, and I don't
Yeah,
want
yeah,
slow moving.
yeah,
I'm sure there are gonna be some grotesque moments where they have to, like, deal with the death of a one of their family Bigfoots or something, but,
yeah.
I don't know, that's just so humanizing, that you can just make a similar movie about, like, cavemen. I don't know why this it would have to be Bigfoot in particular. I mean, maybe if I watched a movie, I would understand, but I kinda don't want to. Like I said, it's not really what I
It's
want out of it.
the reason they go with Bigfoot over caveman is Bigfoot is a bigger selling point. Like
Mhm,
people hear Bigfoot and just simply Bigfoot, people are like, oh,
mhm.
Bigfoot. Whereas it's like cavemen, like you can look back the past 10 to 20 years, and this isn't even comedies. If it's a like prehistoric movie that
Mhm.
follows humans that are like essentially cavemen, like can't really
Mhm.
do much communication sort of thing, they usually don't do great at box office. Now, this movie I know won't do amazing at box office because it's super indie and stuff, but it'd do better than if it was caveman comedy. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
That's your
think part
theory.
of it is the premise of just like, oh, like the trailer, like it feels like National Geographic. Then it's like oh, Bigfoot's having sex. Haha. It's like, oh, I guess we got to go check that
We
out.
got a narrator going on.
Yeah. And yeah, I didn't even know Ari Aster was attached to that. I just
I
saw like in the trailer, like I don't know which
He
Bigfoot it
might
is,
not
but
be like a huge.
It said Jesse Eisenberg, and I was like,
Mhm.
one of these Bigfoot are Jesse Eisenberg? That's so random.
Um, I had seen the preview several times, before I saw the name Ari Aster appear in one of the previews, and I was
Mhm.
like, "What? No way!" And sure enough, he's attached to it. Now, how deeply he's attached to it, I'm not sure, but,
Yeah, it might be to
um
like a producer or something.
mhm.
But clearly, this is a movie he wants to back if he put his name on it.
Um, so we might, I'm excited to make, uh, the Western, um, that I wanna do with involving Bigfoot.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's I still feel like I have a mic over here. I was
The
gonna try
mic,
to
yeah.
adjust it. I've, with a Western, you have a lot of, new things you have to encounter as an artist. Hat brims is something that I kinda have a problem kind of, like, figuring out how the hat sits on the head and if it's gonna be up, if it's gonna be down, where's this brim gonna be? Does it kinda come up wide? Does it kinda just align through the paper? I
Where is the
there's
lighting? Because I have to adjust the shadow of the
Yeah,
brim every time.
um,
Yeah, I could see that being a headache.
the next part is going to be, um, horses. Uh, I'm not terrible with horses right now, but there's a lot more to them I wanna get better at. So I I have rewritten a very short story involving that universe, and I'm excited to uh, get it done and underway. I've done the storyboard, I've done the script, and I've done um, just the first two rough sketches of the pages. Uh, but involving Bigfoot, it's gonna be very fun to me. It's gonna be what I want out of a Bigfoot story. There's
Yeah,
gonna be a
yeah.
little bit of violence. There's gotta be a little bit of nuance. Um, so, uh, looking forward to working on that more.
No Bigfoot doggy style,
No, no,
like in that
Bigfoot,
trailer.
no. Gonna gonna just veer off from that one. Um, but, yeah, uh, what are the, updates on any projects for you?
So I'm still making like I'm working with 4 different artists on 4 different books right now. Um, all of those are either halfway done or almost done, so I'm looking forward to that. And like I'm in a chipper mood this morning because after maybe at least a month, maybe a little over a month of no writing, I finally wrote some yesterday. I wrote 3 1-page scripts. It's for another comic that I'll make eventually. It's 3 1-page scripts, and then uh, I'm really liking this one. It's done. It's a comedy script about King Solomon from the Bible. Um, and I'm liking it. It'll be like a short, so it'll probably be comic page wise. I'm almost done. Like the script, the story, and everything is already written. Dialogue's written.
Hmm.
I just got to place like, okay, this action is this panel. I got to basically place out the pages and panels, but it might be like an 8-page thing. But I'm liking that because it's it's fun. It's not blasphemous or anything. If anyone thinks that, like King Solomon, much like, and that's another thing. People have to be careful with idolizing people in the Bible, humans in the Bible.
Hmm.
Like at the end of the day, they are humans. They are flawed. All of them make mistakes. You see that even with like the big names like David and all that stuff.
Hmm.
They make some big mistakes and stuff. And this is just kind of teasing, making a little funny with King Solomon. Um, but I'm liking it because that it's already written out. But a big part of it is like if you've read or know anything about King Solomon, he's the wisest man. He's the richest man. Like he had all the riches. He had all this
Didn't he?
stuff. He was king of Israel.
Didn't he put
Uh,
all his rich, like allegedly stow away, like like a bunch of silver in a cave or something, like
maybe
before he
I
died?
can't remember. It's possible.
I would have sworn that was it might be a different Bible
Yeah,
character,
I
but I
mean
would have
it
sworn
could be.
he there was something it said that he had like put all his riches or something in a cave. It just made me think
It might be.
of Captain Rogers. I put all my treasure in one place. You
Yeah,
just have to find it. Anyways,
yeah.
go ahead.
King Solomon has the Middle Eastern One Piece. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, like so he has all these riches. He's king of Israel during his time, his reign of Israel. It's a time of peace and unity, and all this. He's wise. He's written all these songs and all this stuff, and he also has 700 wives. Has 700 wives, and in this little
That doesn't
script
sound
I
like the
have,
wisest move.
it doesn't. That's the thing. And I kind of like poke at that a little bit. He's like, I've got 700 wives, and at this point, he's like, I have 299 concubines, but I don't know. I just feel like it's not enough. So I don't know. I just don't feel satisfied. Then like a light bulb goes off. He's like, but what if I get 300 concubines? He's like, servant, get me a 300 concubine. It's like, yes, my lord. It's like, yes, maybe with 300 concubines, I'll finally be satisfied and this won't feel meaningless. And then it's a transition cut to him laying in his palace bed with the 300 concubine on his arm. There are sheets above him covering him and stuff. He's just looking up the ceiling. He's like, no, I was wrong. 700 wives and 300 concubines. I'm not satisfied. This is meaningless. And then he turns over on his side in the bed. He's like, servant, write that down. And the servant's like sitting bedside with like a papyrus scroll. He's like, yes, yes, my lord. And then it's like King Solomon given some wisdom. And then, but a lot of the wisdom's like, it wasn't till now with this 300th concubine that I realize it's all meaningless. And you just kind of see her in the background, like, the heck, man.
It was that bad.
He's like, yes. And it's all, I realized that just now with old Chum Chum here. And the servant's like, very wise, my lord. And she's like, my name's Rebecca. And he's like,
Just chum chum.
look, he does a size like, look, 50 of my wives and concubines' names are Rebecca. Cut me some slack. It's too much. He's like patting her head. It's like, you'll be known as Chum Chum now. Understand? And out of like fear and respect, she just like, yes, my lord. It's like, all right, good. Thanks, Chum Chum. Yeah, it's stupid, but it's fun. And there is like a good bit of biblical if you know anything about Solomon, a lot of this is somewhat fitting. Yes, like not entirely like making him seem like a douche and a whatever. That's not entirely there, but it's like if you have 700 wives and 300 concubines, like I don't know.
There is lore. Now, this I know. Solomon had to fight Asmodeus, which is something that I would probably have so much fun writing as like making as a side story for Envy, because the Solomonic magical lore is so prevalent in the comic, and so is Asmodeus. So it would just be so fun to have like a short, like 8-10 page piece of Envy in the future, where there's just this Marvel cinematic just fight with with Solomon and Asmodeus.
I just remembered one little part. Like there's a lot of this I like forgot or left out that's in the script, but one little part whenever he's like just speaking out loud, because at the beginning he's like, I'm King Solomon speaking aloud as I do, and like in that with getting to the part where he says he has all these riches, he has all this, and he says like, and also with having everything that I could want, I have 700 wives and 299 concubines, and he's like, I not sure if I have enough though. And then he looks at the reader with this one almost like as a this joke's for the bros sort of thing. He's like, I definitely 700 wives is definitely enough, fellas. Like that's sort of, and he's like 299 concubines. I don't know though. But yeah, it's
all right. Looking forward to that. You're gonna have to pitch that to somebody to draw.
Yeah,
that's gonna be fun. Speaking of the artist I got, Adam, is doing really well with the Envy cover. I think he's determined which one he's going to make, and it's underway. So whenever he decides to start posting that, I'll start posting it as well.
Nice.
But in the introduction here, I'm going to put, I never got to do it in the webtoon version. I'm actually now making pages that are kind of past the point of where I left off on the webtoon. And Michael, the Archangel Michael, comes into fight. So Michael's very heavily a part of this second issue, and Adam is really drawn to that. So I think he's making Michael, as he's going to be doing my version of Michael, as part of the cover.
Nice.
So I'm excited to see it.
In terms of media, and I'm not sure how you feel on this movie, but the one time in terms of media that they've portrayed Michael or whatever that was like, whoa, was Legion. I think it's called Legion.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really a horror movie, but like I forgot, maybe it's Gabriel. Like he's down on Earth, and he's trying to like protect this woman because she might give birth to the Antichrist or something. It's the whole thing, and
I'm gonna
like
screenshot this. Send it to you on Instagram.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, Michael in that movie, like they have like such a crazy introduction for him, because a lot of this takes place like in the desert, like near a diner that is just in the middle of nowhere, sort of thing. And
I
there's
think
people
that sounds familiar
surrounding it.
now.
Yeah, there's like trumpets that are playing. It's like loud, it's all over. And then like I don't remember if it's like a beam comes down, but basically it's Michael coming down. And like he has like these, his wings are like almost like razor sharp like
Yeah,
feathers or whatever.
yeah,
Because at
I
one
know
point he's like
exactly
he
what you're
does
talking
like
about now.
a little spin move and he like cuts someone in half or whatever. I can't remember. It's stupid, but it was cool.
um, yeah, that's the screenshot I had sent. I was wondering if that was the movie you were talking about.
Let me see.
That popped up. And
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
because I think that's Paul Bettany. I think he plays Gabriel.
with my Michael, it's in the print that I had posted as a what you call it. It was a TikTok and a reel. That's what it was. I don't have it on my computer. I don't have my USB with me either. But he's very, very like Colossus big. X-Men Colossus. He's that big. I tried to make him into like the statuesque, like Renaissance I
Like
think
the
Michelangelo
ideal.
did statues, I want to
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
And he's very kind of ideal figure, but I want him to have that like statue face, like
Yeah, yeah.
kind of empty. And then he's got his eye. All the demons and all the angels have an eye on them somewhere that is not their eye. He's got it on his chest, and then he's plated shoulders, plated gauntlets. He's got the Jesus sandals on. He's got demon skulls on knee pads. Demon skull is his belt. I didn't give him wings, and I didn't give him a halo. And then his sword, he's got a big claymore with the seal of Solomon as the pommel.
Cool.
So it was very fun getting to design Michael. When it comes to character designs too, I picked the first one. I'm like, good enough, let's go. Now there's probably there's some things I could probably expand on with my character designs, but if they're simple enough but cool enough, that's what I want, because I don't want to be drawing something too complicated over and over.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to see what she is barking at real quick.
Okay.
She's been nonstop for a few minutes. I'll be right
All
back.
right, I'll pause. All right. That was a well-timed break. I had to use the restroom.
Perfect.
What kind of dog do you got, Brandon, that's losing her mind?
It's a mix. There's a Havanese, Yorkshire, and then maybe something else. It's a very tiny 8-pound dog that for some reason thinks it can take on the world.
Mm-hmm. I love tiny dogs.
Cutest dog ever, but of all the dogs we've had, has to be the dumbest dog we've ever had. So cute though, that's the thing. Its cuteness makes up for it. But one of the dumbest dogs I've ever seen. But
I don't know if there are so many like personalities of dogs, and they're all different per dog. Our dumbest dog that we ever had was named Lola. And she was primarily German Shepherd, and she wasn't full, but she was primarily a white German Shepherd, and she would never stop barking at our horses. And they bucked and kicked her so many times. And that poor dog, that was one of the worst things she had going into old age, was all the arthritis and
Oh yeah.
pains and everything um that had to set in from all those broken hips and legs that she kept getting. And she never stopped. She would fuck around and found out and kept fucking around.
Yeah,
It
just
just
keep doing
she
it.
kept
Yeah.
kept going for it.
That's definitely Shelby. She we've had different goats and or different pets in the past, and we have
Goats.
goats. Well, I mentioned goats because we have goats now, and they're not big goats. They're
Yeah.
like Nigerian dwarf goats, but they're still big. It's like the size of like a medium to large dog, basically. Um, but you'll still just like run up at them and like bark, and like she doesn't like snap at them, but she's doing all this and they're just like paying her no mind. Whereas if they did pay her mind, like one little hit,
Yeah.
it gets thrown away, and then she's like, oh, okay. But then she'd probably go back at it, because I think that has happened before, not with goats, but with
Mhm.
other animals. Like she had a lot of bark, and then once they
Mhm.
did something, she gets knocked away. Then she's like, runs back up and is probably like, "Why'd you do that? Huh? 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 Why'd you do that?" It's like, you're so
I can't be
stupid. You're going
bested.
to,
You can't do that
like,
in
if
front of
you were,
them.
if she, which I mean, you could say this with like any, almost any domesticated animal, but truly, she would not last more than a couple days in the wild.
Yeah,
Like
right.
it's one of those things where it's like you, oh my gosh. Like you're just announcing where you are in the woods. You're this tiny little thing. You're just like, hey, hey, hey! If anyone wants to mess around, I'm right here. Come on, bring it on. And then freaking coyote comes.
Yep. You know, I for the longest time did not know that there were wild chihuahuas. I didn't know that was a thing.
I didn't
But
know that
there
was
are
a thing.
packs of wild chihuahuas throughout the southwest and Mexico
Yeah.
of our country. So uh then they make it. They go in packs, and I guess it's just like how any small animal does it. They just gotta know how to be evasive, know when to be aggressive, and
Yeah.
it's
And
just the
stay
funniest
in
idea
that
to me,
pack.
though. Yeah.
Yeah. If you stray from that pack, you're it's not going to be good for you.
Um all right. The next thing I wanted to talk about was Substack. I am testing out Substack, but I have a feeling it's going to be more than testing out. I really enjoy what Substack is. So basically, all I have to do is collect emails and then put them into Substack. So people interested in my work will have a direct line of a direct feed from me. That when I make an update and I post a comic, I can post all the comic just like I would. I believe this is how it can work. I can put the comic in order, and they'll be able to scroll on it on their phone. Um, I think that I can do a separate email for desktop users. Oh, excuse me, and put in the full page. Um, I could probably just put in the full page with the sliced up version of it, and be like, and have a little, you know, little blurb of this is the latest comic. Here's what's going on, or here's an update of what I'm working on. You know, it doesn't have to be about the comic specifically, but
Yeah, yeah.
just be a little update line of communication. Um, and I think the biggest boon for this is Kickstarter. When I begin a Kickstarter, I'll be able to email people directly, like, I'm beginning a Kickstarter. Here's a preview of everything I'm doing, a video, whatever. I think Substack is going to be awesome. Uh, uh, just for a direct, people that are interested, I have their email, they get the information. It's like, can't be any more, nicer than that. Like,
Yeah, that is good. Does Substack, as you as the creator who's posting and sending emails out, does it cost you anything to do it?
it doesn't.
Okay.
They kind of press for you to make a subscription-based model, um, which I'm considering could could work. I'm just concerned about having a subscription based through Substack and a subscription based through Patreon.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I don't know how I would give what each person would want through that form of subscription. They have a minimum of $5. Um, Substack is more writer based. So if I wanted to write out an article about a movie, maybe do a movie review article. I say that because that's probably the easiest thing that I would be able to know how to write at any kind of length about. But I can do that and then make it subscriber only, or like paid subscriber only. You'll only be able to get my movie review if you do that. But I also don't really watch a whole lot of movies. I don't think frequently enough to be giving uh, movie reviews, or pertinent movies. Like, I haven't watched Gorilla versus Kong or any kind of Godzilla movie the past few years.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so it's like, my crowd would probably want more pop culture stuff happening. But that's just an idea. Uh, for now, I don't have any required subscription. There's a free subscriber kind of ordeal. So not only can I go get emails, um, but I can be up on the Substack platform to subscribe to for free. Um, so uh, that was one of the perks that Brad had talked about on the Comic Lab podcast, that you uh, don't have to pay for it, but it's very much like a MailChimp kind of thing, which I think is what he was using before. It was like a 30 or $40 service to have a direct email line. Where with
Yeah,
Substack, it's not.
that's the
Uh,
reason I had asked regarding Substack, because whenever I first started out, like I've always heard, and I still want to, but when I first started out, a big thing that people talked about was building an email list, or having something like that formed. And the only thing at the time was really like MailChimp. And I had used it a little bit, and like, yeah, because of the cost and stuff, I was like, it's not worth it right now
mhm,
for me, at least. Um, and so like the way I was building my email list is like people that back the Kickstarters or whatever.
mhm,
Like, I have their information and I can send emails that way, but that was really it. Because you see at like conventions, like some people have a thing where it's like, hey, like sign up for the email list. And I've wanted to have that sort of stuff, but that I'll have to look into Substack, because I know of like a good bit of comic creators and writers that have a Substack and stuff, but I never thought about it for uh, us indie creators, so I might have to
mhm.
look into that.
Yeah. So I checked it out because Comic Lab guys were really looking into it. They said that they've had indie um, comic creators through their network doing pretty well with it. So when I looked into it, I went in with like the idea that it's like I'm gonna have to figure out something to write on a regular basis and make that like be valuable enough to subscribe to. But it looks, from what I can tell so far, it looks like it can just be free. And your you can import any email list that you have already made. You just export that email list from whatever avenue. I think Kickstarter would offer something like that, an export of the emails that you got. And you can easily import it through an import system on Substack, or you can individually add a email. I did a test with one of my coworkers that likes my stuff. He gave me his email, and I just put it in. And he said that he had received the email when I sent out my first test on. I did a little test of like, this is my first Substack email. Here's some updates that are going on this week, and that was it. No images, just kind of the basic images I set up in Substack. You can
Mhm.
kind of set up the branding of yourself. So I put my American Demon Comics logo on it and gave it a test try, and it worked pretty easily. You could see a preview of the mobile and see a preview of the desktop viewers. The one thing I don't like about Substack right now is it seems like they have your profile as a Substack viewer. Then they have your homepage of your Substack as a viewer, and then they have the dashboard of your homepage that you can go into the actual settings and stuff for. And navigating between those three is kind of frustrating. But aside from that, once you kind of get the idea of how to get between those and start setting it up, it took me a few hours, like 2 or 3 hours total, to kind of get used to and set up.
Okay. Yeah, I might look into that. Yeah, I've been trying to find good sources of sending out, because Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff, like those suck
Mm-hmm.
in terms of sending out to those that want to see it. Like we've talked
Right.
about in the past. Like I've had people message me 2 years later. They're like, "Oh, like your page finally showed up for me again. Like I thought you just like died off."
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's the algorithm sort of thing.
So I'm still going to be posting on everything, and still, it seems like Reddit is the more engaging kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, I post weekly, or whenever I have an update, I post on the esoteric page on Reddit. They don't seem to have like enough moderation or enough flow of content on that feed for them to like be like, okay, no comics on this
Yeah.
feed. So I just keep posting on there. And usually I get positive reactions on that. This most recent page I put up, it had been downvoted. I think it just had to be downvoted once, but it was downvoted to a 0. But I still got a comment that said, I like this. So it's kind of like the likes aren't going up, but you still
Yeah.
get like people that want to see it.
Yeah.
And so that might have been why he commented on it, is because he was like, well, it says it's 0, but I like it, so I'm gonna tell him that. So Reddit seems to be still a good place. The thing about my comic is it's not short, and it's going to be a long form, and Reddit really, and Instagram for that matter, really seem to like a short 4-panel thing that's like a
Mhm.
joke. So those are usually what pop off. If not that, then really, really incredible art. Like if it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
really astounding art, then it might pop off.
And sometimes astounding AI art. No. Yeah.
We might go into that. The last thing I wanted to talk about real quick is the Art on the Lake event that I'm doing this weekend. I don't know how the vibe is gonna be for this small town annual art thing. Um, it looks like they have a lot of handcrafted stuff and stuff that people paint. It looks like a lot of original art. I don't have a whole lot of original art to offer, but what I do have will be kind of upfront. I don't know how I'm gonna feel when I get there about uh, stickers, about T-shirts, about the kind of like I don't want to say gimmicky, but kind of like gimmicky stuff that I've printed, and stuff that somebody else has kind of printed. And if I made the stickers all myself, I would feel differently about this event specifically. I'd be like, here are my stickers that I made. It's technically handmade or something.
Yeah, yeah.
I printed it myself. Um, but anything that was mass produced that I didn't make myself, I'm gonna kind of have in the background for this event. But this will be the first event I get to kind of do the mailing list thing. Um, and I'm also going to be kind of upfront offering commissions. So uh, I'll let everyone know how that goes on our next episode.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I've never done this one before, but I've got one in South Mississippi this Sunday, April 21st. By the time
Hmm.
people are listening to it, it's past for both of us. Um, but yeah, April 21st. I the big reason I'm doing a 1 day on a Sunday is it was free.
Hmm.
So that's a plus. Because it's this uh, county library that's running it. It's not at the library. It's at like a civic center, but they really are focused on like, and it says in their thing, like the focus is like comics and manga and
Hmm.
and novels and different stuff like that. Where like there is other random stuff there. There will be like your food stuff, which is always good. There's all of that stuff. But compared to like a big convention like Fan
Right.
Expo or something, like this does seem like it has a focus on comics and manga and stuff rather than that being like, here's our pop culture event. And those are, yeah, they're over there. There's a couple booths over there. Go check those out. Like
Yeah.
it does seem like there's actually
Here's all
kind
the
of a
voice
focus.
actors and the
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
people
Which is
and
cool
those
if
guys
you're
over there.
into that. Like if you want to
Yeah.
get all the autographs and meet them and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, yeah. Um, so I'm looking forward to that. Like I think I don't know if I mentioned to you or not. Like this is the most comic creators I've seen. Like I've looked at the list. This is the most comic creators I've seen at one of these conventions so far in terms of like indie comic creators.
Hmm.
There's like 5 or 6 of us, 5 or 6 publishers, like indie publishers, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you go to any small convention or even Fan Expo New Orleans, any small convention, that's usually you and maybe 1 or 2 others, maybe in terms of indie comic creators or indie comic publishers. Fan Expo, it was like 4 of us, maybe 5, and that's giant. Um, but this one's like there's like 32 or 33 vendors in total, and like hey, like 5 or 6 of them, it's comic creators.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like that because at the very least, even if I don't really sell much, like one, it didn't cost me anything to go there. I didn't have to get a hotel because it's just a
Hmm.
1 day trip there and back. My only cost is really gas because
Right.
I'll pack food and I'll take that. But so yeah, cost wise, it's pretty much nothing. If I don't really sell much, at the very least, networking at this
Hmm.
sort of thing with other comic creators. I like networking with all the other people, but like I want to network with people that are in the stuff that I'm doing, kind of. So,
Right. Hey, well,
I think it'll be good.
if you network with somebody you want to have on our podcast, have just a
Yeah,
different
yeah,
voice to talk for a week or something, we can see if we can set that up.
yeah. That
Um,
sounds good.
in fact, I
Yeah,
might try and reach out to Adam and see if he'd be interested
yeah, yeah,
in joining us one Wednesday. It seems like this is his full-time gig because he's like, I got to get in the studio, I got to have my coffee, I got to do the, it's very artist-esque. It sounds like he
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
really have another job that he does right now, so I would think that he could swing it. But yeah, if you want to invite somebody on, give them the time and the normal
yeah, yeah.
time, and then work from there.
Yeah,
That'd be
that'd be
cool.
good. Yeah, I I uh I just want to see comics flourish
Hmm.
somehow. Um, and manga is a part of that. Manga flourishes. I think it does have a little bit of a trickle down with Western comics, at least. But uh, yeah, any
Well,
support or expansion of Western
mhm.
comics, I think, is good.
um, mine is kind of a mesh of the two,
Mm.
but I would not really associate it with being a manga. I do like that it has a manga appeal in it, but I was actually shown storms are getting crazy here. I was actually shown about a week or two ago that uh, the Crow graphic novel.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um, and I've never seen it before. I was never really a big Crow person growing up. And I had heard all about the movie. I didn't even know that it was based off a comic, um, which is kind of a piece of the puzzle when it comes to what I'm making. Um, is that I know that a lot of big media is based off comics,
yeah, yeah,
as the in essence. But I had never looked at The Crow before, and I was really astonished that I had not, because there was a lot of it was actually by the pop culture philosophers Robbie, where I kind of been hanging out with him just in leisure. But he was like, "Yeah, I peeked at your comic and it has this style. Here, let me show you the Crow." And I was like, "Wow, it does. It's really it's like it's very ink based, very ink wash based, and very uh screen tone based, like um a lot of that going on in it. So it was interesting for me to see that a Western comic was more so uh, put together with these pieces of the Japanese
yeah,
culture and
yeah.
comics.
Especially at that time, like the '90s,
Hmm.
where like anime is like it's coming over to the states. Like
Hmm.
it's like at that time, it's really like, oh, Dragon Ball Z is here. That's
Right.
pretty much it. And then like late '90s and stuff, you get like uh,
Ghost in the Shell,
Inuyasha,
Inuash.
Ghost in the
Yeah.
Shell, like all of those, like the Toonami
Yo
stuff
Yo
starts trickling
Hakusho.
out. Yeah, yeah.
None of which
That's
I've ever
like
watched, but I know I know
yeah,
of them.
like that's like late '90s. So that's interesting that like when The Crow was made, like manga wasn't really that big in the states, and anime also wasn't entirely that big in the states. So it's interesting to see those pulls from manga at
Hmm.
that time in The Crow when it's not as big compared to 30 years later in the states.
Right. Which also, when he was showing me this, and he's showing Robbie was showing me like the tones and stuff that they had put in it. Um, in the 90s, when you put screen tone in something, it was kind of a pain in the ass.
Mm.
um, because you had to put down the screen tone over the art and see
Oh
where the
yeah.
screen tone was going to be, and then lightly go over it with a razor and cut out the pieces of the screen tone that you wanted to keep. And then you had to peel off the excess and hope that that screen tone that you'd cut out was going to stay there and look like you imagined it to look. And then you might actually have needed a second layer of screen tone.
Mm.
And you could off center the circles from the other circles. You could line up the circles perfectly and make it darker that way. And then again, lightly cut it out. You couldn't bear down at all. You would cut the art. Now this was the method of which that I had seen it be done. Maybe there's an easier method. Maybe there's a secret. But as far as I could tell, it was the only usual method that people use screen tone.
Mm.
Um, and then if you wanted to have kind of a fade in that screen tone, you would take that razor and kind of scrape at the dots that were on the paper, and you would make a shine, a highlight, or an effect by doing that. So it's really interesting, really meticulous, and I don't know if my patience could take it if I had to
Yeah.
ever do that. I do all mine digitally. It's all just in a layer, which is really nice.
That's what's wild is like that's what they were doing in the 90s. And then I mean really you could say less than 15 years later, like doing digital screen tones was
Hmm.
more the norm. Like
Yeah.
just having to adapt as an artist and stuff over the past, we'll say 40 years, just seems like such a headache.
Well, for the most part, so on Comic Lab, uh, Brad does use Clip Studio Paint while Dave uses Photoshop. And for me personally, when I went from Photoshop to Clip Studio Paint, it took me like less than a week to get used to it.
Okay.
They were pretty much like mirrored, um, and there were different things that I learned over the course of a few weeks, um, that were either not in Photoshop or done differently uh, in Clip Studio. But it wasn't anything too major that I couldn't adapt to it um, pretty quickly. And um, Dave wants to do Clip Studio Paint really bad. He's like, "Oh, it sounds like it's got all these cool features, and it's made for making comics, and this, that, and the other." And and Brad's like, "Yeah, do it. Just do it. Just swap. Just I know that Clip Studio Paint for whatever reason doesn't have CMYK setting. It's just RGB, but that's just a little hump that you can get over. Just switch." And like ever since they started that podcast, they've been having that discussion, and Dave has not switched yet. So I kind of feel like, yes, adapting to the new things for art would be difficult, um, and AI included, but it it's kind of a necessary step. And the more times you do the adaptation in the past, the easier it gets if you keep doing it as it goes along. Um, but like I do think AI is going to be an incredible tool that I will have to step into. Um, I don't. I would not want my art to be made by AI. That does not sound fun. That does not sound why I do this. Um, but there are some creative inputs that I've seen in AI art that would be really uh, cool to implement as just kind of a brainstormer for you, and also as a writing kind of a quasi writing partner if you needed to ask about certain writing points. You can put it into chat GPT and see what it has to say, you know. I
So
know
with art, you would mostly use it as like the furthest, like as a reference.
yeah. um the there was what is it called, uh there was some bot uh thing that people were doing on Twitter. It's kind of a trendy thing that was happening. um it might be a Wally, uh Dolly, like
Oh yeah,
DALE.
Dolly. Yeah, yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Those image generators, I put in American Demon Attack on Titan style, and it just gave me these really cool things.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, it was like there was this colossal Titan centered up, and it had like horns, and it had its mouth open with sharp teeth. And there was like an American flag or something in the background. It was crazy. I was like, that's pretty cool. Um, and just not something that I would just think of off the bat, because I have a very different idea of Attack on Titan and my American Demon brand, and it was just kind of testing out what this thing would do. So I made like World of Warcraft style XYZ, Attack on style XYZ, and it just, you know, spit out some cool things. Like you get like can get like metallic looking skeletons, um, stone looking skeletons with features on them that, you know, your normal skeleton doesn't have on it. And it really does offer an interesting library of stuff to pull from. I haven't done it
yeah,
yet, but that's kind of the goal.
yeah. Ultimately, I'm okay with people using it for reference for their art, because I mean, like people use everything for reference for their art nowadays.
Hmm.
Like they see a picture online on Google, they use that for reference. Like so it's one of those tools. As long as it's like reference or even like lesser than that, I'm completely fine with it. My issue is like not even entirely like someone creating AI art. I don't have an issue with someone creating AI art. My issue is more if they're trying to profit off of it or pass it off as, hey,
Hand drawn,
look
yeah.
at what I made. It's like, or it sounds mean to the AI artist, but not even like trying to trick anyone. If they are like, look at this work that I did through AI, like look at it. And like my issue with that is like, how much work was it? Because I've done the prompts before.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm not trying to be like, oh, I rang the bell on this before anyone else did. But like early to mid 2022, I was hearing all this stuff and I tested it out and stuff, and like I saw where things were going and it worried me. And then that October of 2022, that's when all the images of the AI and the circle, like
Hmm.
basically no AI images. I was like, okay, I guess some other people are finally paying attention to this, you know. But so early on, that's when I was like upset and frustrated and stuff, because I was like, what does this mean for creators? Whereas like
Hmm.
now it's not that big of a deal to me. But yeah, my big issue is if someone is trying to say that they put a bunch of effort into it, even not trying to trick someone into thinking that it's they hand drew it or whatever. Um, that's one of my things. If you aren't trying to profit off of it, if you're honest about this is AI, ultimately I'm fine with that. I don't care.
Yeah. Um, I think it's still going to be a slow evolution of things happening with AI. One of the first things that I do agree with, Dave mentioned that uh, it could potentially wipe out the mom and pop uh, kind of store branding for graphic designers. So if you were
Oh yeah.
a very uh, trying to get into the field of design and art and everything for a small business, that small business could very well just prompt in for some kind of logo, AI generated, and then just slap it on everything and call it
Yeah.
a day
It
for
can
their.
wipe out those type of brandings, which it's sad, but it likely will. It'll likely wipe out those mom and pop branding logo type
Mhm,
places. And if you're like mostly a concept artist, your gig is probably mostly gone by now, or not by now, but it will be. That's what's
mhm.
sad about it.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that too. Um, like I said, it's kind of an evolving thing, but right now, if I don't know, I already kind of feel like a lot of styles are similar. I feel like World of Warcraft had put such a stamp on video games that Raid Shadow Legends,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
the next game 2.0, mobile game, turn-based warrior thing, they all look the same.
yeah, yeah,
And even the Clash of Clans kind of staple art has gone into other things, and I think AI really still pulls from so much of that it makes also more generic looking things. And
oh yeah,
there are amazing concept art uh, that I've seen, crazy good looking trolls, everything's well composed, and comic book art and just things like that look really good, made by an artist. But I also look at it and go, it's pretty much the same as XYZ.
yeah, yeah,
And and that's kind of what bothers me about uh art as we go forward. It's kind of like the again, I'm not against capitalism as a business uh, model for our nation, but it is a symptom of capitalism just kind of churning out. Just it's like that worked in the past, it's going to work
yeah.
now,
Let's keep
and
going. Yeah, I mean, you can see that in any form of art, like not just comics. You see that in movies. You see that in
I'm
video
talking about
games.
video games
Yeah, yeah,
primarily,
yeah. You
but
see it
movies too.
everywhere. Um, I've definitely felt that way because I'm a big movie guy. I've definitely felt that way. Like I'm not trying to say I'm like a movie snob, but like if you watch a bunch of movies, especially the past like 10 to 15, I'd say 10 years, there's some great movies. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes to the big box office, like those tentpole movies, the big blockbusters, like it all feels the same, and
Hmm.
but it's what works. It's what makes the big box office. It's what makes $500 million, $1 billion.
Hmm.
So they see that and they're like, well, clearly this is what we got to keep doing, which is sad, but
Well, Um, I feel like when something breaks the mold and hits a sweet spot, um, I think personally, I think Attack on Titan did that really well because the whole setting is just really interesting to me. You have like this old style Germanic 1800s looking housing situation going on in the small towns. Um, there's a feudal system kind of still in place and a monarchy and and then there's these big walls surrounding it. And then meanwhile, the military has this ODM gear that is an omnidirectional, like grappling hook sword system that it's like it took a bunch of these pieces that already exist and then also made something very new out of it. Just something so conceptually awesome and different um, that just don't often get out of everything, like
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll say this regarding comics and manga. Um, kind of separating DC and Marvel from the side. Like a lot of that can feel the same because they're doing superhero comics. Like a lot of it is going to feel the same.
Mhm.
Like, that's just the way it is. But comics and manga as a whole, compared to movies, I'd probably even say compared to video games, maybe even comics and manga are today one of the most creative like medias that are out there because it's so
Mhm.
wild. It's stuff that like yes 20 years from now movies or video games will like catch up to a little bit in terms of the weirdness or the creativity. And I'm not saying like to be creative you have to be weird, but some examples that come to my mind. Again, this doesn't mean this is what creativity is, but I haven't even read this, but the concept I like. You have stuff like I think it's Rooster Fight. It's a manga where
I think
it's
Adam's doing some art on that.
really
No, wait,
that's
wait, no, no,
awesome.
no, 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 wait. There's a different comic rooster project happening, I think, but now I think I know what you're talking about.
Okay,
Is a
yeah,
something straight out of Japan,
yeah, yeah. This
actual
is a
rooster
manga.
manga. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Rooster Fight or something, and it's basically like it's somewhat like your classic manga feel where it's like person rising to the top or whatever it is, that
Mhm.
sort of thing. But it's roosters. And
Yeah.
it's in a world full of there's humans and stuff,
Mhm.
but it's like a rooster that's
Yeah.
doing it
But it's not like a
yes,
personified rooster. It's not like it doesn't have like I I I
it
don't
doesn't
think
have
if
like human features. It's
right.
literally like a 1 foot tall rooster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I've seen a page that went viral or
and the
something
art is
on
beautiful in it.
yeah,
Like it's
it is
really
really good.
good. Yeah. Like
Um,
and I'm not saying that's like that's creativity, the weird stuff. But I mean like I forgot who said it or what book said it. There are only so many stories you can tell. I forgot the number, but it's like no more than 64. There's only like
mhm,
64 stories you can really tell. Yes, yours can have different elements and stuff, but there's no more than like 64 stories, or it might be less. This example, like the rooster fight thing, it's a classic manga tale of
right,
like rising up essentially, but it's with a rooster, just an animal rooster. Yes, it's this thing, the story you've seen before, but with a little twist.
mhm,
And you see that a lot with comics and manga. And that's what makes it so like, like this feels like a breath of fresh air. It's a story we've seen before, but with this added weirdness or twist sort of.
mhm,
Like I I, I like that with comics and manga as well as this kind of deviates from manga a little bit. Manga, there's different styles, but there is a style of manga that you can see in like 70% of manga where it's like,
Right.
this looks exactly like that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
You can say that with Marvel and DC stuff as well. But branching out, going to like Western comics, or not even Western comics, it can be like European comics and stuff. There's so many weird, like wait, yes, you can do watercolors and stuff, but there's so many weird things that people do with comics that just makes it like pop, and like the story can be decent, but the art can just be like, holy crap, to where like
Mhm.
I want to see this animated. And maybe eventually animation will catch up
Yeah.
and not just be like pigeonholed to Pixar and Disney. Maybe it'll catch up and do this weird and creative and different stuff.
Well, that's the beauty of
But
being able to distribute and create these programs like Photoshop. It used to be kind of an exclusive thing, but now the everyday man can use it. Um, and I wanted to point out this dinosaur fighting game that
oh yeah, I've seen
somebody
it.
animated
They have the
and
swords or
had a,
whatever in their mouth. Yeah.
yeah, and it had a demand for a video game, and that's just gonna be another one of those like it's a fighting game but with dinosaurs. It, it's like as a dinosaur fighting game, you are now opened up to a whole new arsenal of how to make an effective combat regiment, because now you have a whole different set of anatomy that
Yeah,
has
yeah.
to work in conjunction with physics and with swords in their mouths, you know?
Yeah.
So uh I don't know if that guy's gonna totally do it on his own. That sounds like something that's gonna need a team, but I'm very excited to see what comes of that.
Yeah, at the very least, like with how much traction he's gotten on TikTok and different stuff like that, like I feel like there are like some backers or like some financiers that are at least helping him financially, but might also help bring some other people into it. Um, I ultimately, I'm not going to play the game, but that's ultimately because I don't really play much video games now.
Mhm.
But back when I did play video games, I probably would have definitely played this game when it comes out. Um,
I if it ever does come out as a full-fledged video game, I am going to play it. That uh, I think Janelle is interested in playing it as well, so it'll be a fun time.
and that's the thing is like
Time to be alive.
it could flop in terms of like gameplay and stuff. It could feel like, oh, like this all feels the same or whatever.
Yeah.
But the concept, there was an interesting, like very different concept that happened that got a bunch of people, like let's say in the future it comes out, got a bunch of people to go out and buy it.
Mhm.
Like at the very least, if there's something new, it could flop in terms of the
Right.
overall product, but if there's something new, I like that. Because you can see that with video games in the past. Like there's one I had in mind, but it slipped my mind. But one I just thought about is Titanfall. Back when Titanfall came out,
Mhm.
like that E3, back when E3 was a thing, that E3 trailer and everything, everyone was losing their mind.
Mhm.
'Cause it's like, oh my gosh, you can like get launched out of or you're like shooting and you're running on the wall and you're doing all this stuff, and you could jump, like dive into a Titan and you're controlling it. It was something we hadn't seen in video games up to
Yeah.
that point. The game comes out, it gets decent reviews,
Right.
gameplay's fairly good. It doesn't live up to that trailer, but at least we saw something new. And
Mhm.
maybe they didn't live up to it, but maybe in the future this thing can, or that
Right.
thing can. We just need that new stuff to happen, even if that person that introduces that concept fails on it, someone else will be like, they failed on it, but that was a really good idea. Let me try to do it. Like, let's keep the new stuff going. You see it in video games, see it sometimes in comics. You definitely see it in movies. Like, we can
Yeah,
do
let's
new stuff.
iterate on this a little
Yeah,
bit more.
yeah.
All right, Brandon, I couldn't agree more, but I think we're gonna wrap it up here at an hour and a half. I'm again Austin Light with American Demon Comics, and this is Brandon Ingram with Dismay Comics. He has his Facebook and Instagram at Dismay Comics. You can go to my website at americandemoncomics.com. I also have Facebook and Instagram. I also got my NV Comic Reddit, so r/NV Comic, and now a Substack. With that, if you would like and subscribe and leave a comment, anything on any of those platforms, it really helps us out and really motivates us. Is there anything you want to finish off with, Brandon?
I'll say for those commenting on the stuff, if you listen to this episode in our Bigfoot talk, leave a comment in one of Austin's things and being like, okay, you're going to do the Bigfoot Western, but in the Bigfoot Western, where's the Bigfoot doggy style?
Yeah. No. Almost had Brandon do a spit take there, which would have been even better. But thank you for joining me today, Brandon, and we will see you again in 2 weeks.
Sounds good. Take care.